Welcome to Decentral Lens, where lifelong friends Blustoshi and Disco navigate the ever-evolving crypto landscape. With genuine curiosity and a commitment to nuance as our North Star, we offer clear-eyed exploration. Our goal? To empower listeners with the tools and insights needed to flourish in this decentralized age.
What is up, everybody? Disco, I am excited today. I feel like we are on offense now. We've been playing defense for 15 years and we are on fucking offense, and I love it.
Yeah, get off your heels, start leaning forward, leaning in. Big day. It's one of those where it's like we have so many great things to talk about. It's like a little gift that I didn't anticipate, and I love our times. I love like when we're going live and doing this and there's like breaking news at the ready. So we'll be trying to monitor as much as we can of what's going on. And I encourage anyone in our lovely listening audience, if you're hearing anything new, give us a comment and keep us in the loop. But really, really pumped up for today and where things appear to be headed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always get distracted at the beginning of the shows because I'm trying to post in a couple of our common DM groups just to let them know that we're here, we're live, and we're fired up this week. Like, it's so funny how quickly things change. And, we talked last week about the bull and the bear and the bear and the bull, but there's always, and there's going to be more of these, but it just feels like everything going on in Washington and basically Gary Gensler being told basically to STFU and sit down the fact that we had bipartisan group in both Congress and Senate pass this bill to block their fact that banks can't custodian and big institutions can't custody Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies was just a joke. And the Congress has finally worked together to act. And it just feels like the tide is turning. There's probably way bigger boss battles to fight because they're cloak and dagger and they're manipulative, but this week feels good.
Yeah, it's a giddy week. It's a giddy day. There's nothing but, exciting things to come, probably regardless of how, some of the stuff even turns out. The fact that it's all on the docket and is in kind of the consciousness. I hearken back to, it wasn't even that long ago when we were in DC, and I think that we could both kind of agree that one of the undercurrents we kind of picked up on was that, this is starting to get some support. And, we were talking about how there were, numerous legislators who came by and kind of got a little FaceTime with the community and appear to be on this side of pushing some policy forward. So, it kind of had the sense of there is some acceptance. We had some, the leaders, the typical leaders, the Loomis, those folks we kind of knew, but there were some other ones kind of coming in. And I think that the biggest takeaway that we've kind of been talking about since we started the show really is kind of this need for things to be more representative of the actual, population and the views of the population. And we've been running around, screaming like, hey, there's 52 million holders, which, equates to, a significant portion of the voting populace, and single issue voting is extremely, easy to kind of activate, right? When you have a passionate single issue voting, and now this is basically an emerging class of voters, and it's getting recognized, and the force and the potential influence is getting, kind of accommodated now in the form of openness to legislation. And I think what's so fascinating is this, from the split going from 60 to what it went to, the 60 to 38 was, you saw it along more generational than partisan lines. And I think that that's, out of all the takes out there, like that's kind of the take that I think is really, really important to focus on.
Yeah. We've been fighting for so long, and, every once in a while you reach out to your congressperson. I did an open letter last week, both on Twitter and just wrote to the White House, got no acknowledgement there, obviously, but I don't think I was alone. I don't think you and I should be embarrassed to admit, like, we grew up in a very liberal part of the United States, and that's how I actually was in a split family. My dad was Republican, my mom was a liberal, so I guess I've always been more independent minded, but I've always voted more Democrat, and now I'm just like, what happened to that party? Where did they go? And now I'm truly an independent. But the fact that they're somebody, I think breaking ranks with that last vote where they're basically challenging Joe Biden to veto this last crypto bill, what is it? Repealing SAB 121, right? And now they're going to challenge him to veto it. Like, dude, I dare you to veto that. Like, they're already on the heels, and it all comes down to like numbers and interviews and polls, and the Democrats know that if they don't about face quickly, there's a lot of, whether you're a single issue voter for crypto or it's certainly an important issue, and there's a couple of things important to you, there's, 20% of us, especially in swing states, like the Democrats have been run by, octogenarians, and they've been out of touch, and somebody got a hold of somebody. And it feels to me like this week is an about face. We're about to get possibly the Ethereum ETF. We were all like, 2025, like basically Biden's got to lose, Gensler's got to be booted, and then we'll probably get the ETH ETF. And now we think it could be today or tomorrow. It's crazy.
Yeah. So that's getting, debated on the floor right now, I believe, and that could come up for vote as soon as this afternoon or this evening. Obviously there's a push within Congress before the holiday weekend to kind of clear the slate and to, get things up to vote and to have that happen. So that's where this urgency is coming in. And that was tied to as well the SEC deadline for approval on the ETH ETF. So it's just this sandwich of, things coming together. And I really do think you're right. And I think that there must have been some sort of reconnaissance or some sort of aha moment in the world of the Democrats where it was like, we're not coming across well with this like extreme positioning and those kind of extreme voices representing, policy and being kind of the figureheads. And it seems like it was more of a move towards, the center and compromise and understanding that, we really don't want to alienate and ostracize, 52 million people and, 45% of that are single issues. So you're talking about 23.4 million potential votes. And then you look at how it's broken out into the swing states, and you just see that it could really be something that you could look back and be like, you guys really screwed up your chances on the election, not even just from a presidential, but from the, Senate and House perspective as well. So it's just, wow, this is one of those days where it's like, I want to make sure that I kind of go slowly, because each of these things that we've kind of touched on have weight in their own, yet it's easy to kind of just, put them all together in the same, ice cream sundae and be like, it's all there. It's hard to keep track of, the FIT21s to the SAB 121s and where we're at with the ETFs and all that. So bear with us. And I really would encourage everybody, help us get involved with this conversation. You just have to click into the feed on X, and then you can interface and interact. And we love questions. We love seeing this. And this is the sort of day where I'd certainly like to, kind of share it with others, because, we've been through a lot, and as you said to start the show, it's like, it feels good to be on offense. It feels good not to be on the heels and to be like, hey, I'm in my basement. Who knows if this is all going to get shut down? What are we doing? So it's just it's a really great opportunity and good vibes today.
Well, and I'll say too, not that my tweet or missive to the White House, and I thought about it, and I probably spent like 20 minutes writing something that I wanted to write, not the cookie cutter one that they send you. And obviously, like I said, it wasn't me, but there were so many of us who spoke out there. But it makes a difference, and it feels good to be like, wait a second, like, this is America. I don't have to apologize or be all sheepish on what I believe in. Like, they've overreached for a while. We've all been on the ropes. SEC and Gary Gensler's been sending Wells notices to, Uniswap and Coinbase and Kraken. Like, they've sent them to so many companies. Kraken, I don't think has a Wells notice, but a lot. And now, like, Hayden Adams from Uniswap and that whole team just called the SEC. They're like, you're weak and you're misguided. They're like, people are basically now like, the Gensler and that whole executive branch and their whole crypto army Senator Warren crap, they're wounded, and now everybody knows it, and people are going on the offense, and we should go on the offense, and we should keep in a very tactful, above board way, like keep it positive, but let them know, like even in blue states where, crypto is still back asswards, like let your Congress people know that it's important to you, and they can give you that cookie cutter letter. But the more of us that speak up, the more they're going to realize that their reelection opportunities, because that's what a lot of these guys, the only thing they care about are on the ropes. So they'll start hedging and be like, well, maybe we need to explore innovation. Like they'll use all those bullshit terms, but then we'll know we're winning, and we're going to keep pushing until we can self-custody. And we know that one is off the table, whether it's self-custodying physical gold, which obviously is legal, but self-custody, your private keys, and your Bitcoin. Not that that's on the table right now, but that's something we preemptively fight. So there's no ambiguity as to what we want and how we galvanize to make that happen. If I'm an old man and we're looking back at our rocking chair sipping the lemonade, and we made sure even to preemptively cut and curb that one, knowing that we saved part of freedom of speech and freedom to transact and holding your own private keys, like that's a massive win. And that will be, as long as the kids are happy too, that'll be a life well lived, I think.
Yeah, it's a potential legacy moment, and it does feel fun, to get involved. Like I emailed and called my representatives, and then I was telling my kids, I'm like, oh, I reached out to, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we're allowed to, and we're supposed to, like, that's part of the process. So it does feel empowering. And I think, the whole theme of it really is we're allowed to have a voice, and, we're also right, like we're on the right side of this. So when you have kind of that validation of like, yeah, I'm going to reach out, and I am passionate about something, I have every right to be passionate about it because it is the future. And then it gets into everything that we're looking at. It's like, for goodness sakes, we don't want to lose, we don't want to lose this era of innovation that our country's had for so long. So if it takes us getting involved and throwing our rattle and making some noise and, teaming up and doing that, I know that they count the emails. I know they count the phone calls, and it does make a difference. So I encourage, and it's really easy. You click a button, as you say, you can either do the form or you can, freestyle and write your own stuff. So it's not like they're hiding. They want to hear, because then that justifies their actions, right? To your point, it's about getting votes, right? So if they're like, wow, this is a real active group that really cares about this, we're much more likely to get favorable policies to come through. And we're starting to hopefully see that come through in reality. And it's a breakthrough moment for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we, like you said, a lot of us got in for the JPEGs and the runes, and there's so much cool technology being created, and the whole RSIC journey has been amazing, and just watching all this new technology uncover. But, this one it's like we came for the JPEGs and we stayed for the freedom to transact, the freedom of speech, and the right to certain privacy, like that battle is another one that's going to have to be fought, because right now, whereas Zcash and Monero are very private, I know Monero I think both have ring signatures, and it's a very, at the protocol level, very private. Bitcoin has some privacy, but it's not fully private either. So the fight, this feels like a huge win, and this is a hill the Democrats and politicians in general and the executive branch have retreated on. But I think now is the time to galvanize people and to attack as they retreat, and really make strong statements and get people educated on what's really important here. Obviously our JPEGs and our ordinal punks and our Bitcoin shrooms and everything, our node monks, right, and everything. But this is a way bigger game, like stack sats, private keys, and like, let's fucking go.
Yeah. And it almost raises, to myself at least, it raises the question of, is the era of front running ending? Like, did we miss, are we at the point where it's like, stacking sats, or, getting a lot of ETH and building those reserves up in your investment portfolio? If this goes down today, like, we may not see, not points of entry that we've seen over the past couple of months ever again. And it could really represent that.
Oh, disco. Like, you know how many times I've said that? It's not happening. So think about it.
What do you mean?
Well, think about, like, Wisconsin pension funds gotten in, the Japan pension funds. Like, so all these people are already buying, and now we know with a lot of the 10Ks from when the Bitcoin ETFs came out, we know that Jamie Dimon with one hand is saying it's evil, and the other is like, I think I'll buy a little more. So I mean, these guys are complete hypocrites, right? But we haven't, even in the big institutional money and the big old dynasty family money and the offices, all the Raymond James and all the people trying, the JP Morgans trying to be your investment advisor because, hey, we're gonna put you in a 60-40 stock to bond. Like, those days are dead. Like, the bond market could just be, I mean, not financial advice, but could be ready to implode. Like, crypto at least is 3 to 5% of your portfolio. And I'm not speaking personally. Like, if I was 3 to 5%, I would jump off a bridge. That would be grossly underexposed. Again, not financial advice, but for these major institutions. And remember, all the people that you came at the peak of last cycle, at the peak.
Correct.
You stuck.
Can confirm.
Yeah, but this is a badge of honor. It's a shitty badge of honor, but it's a freaking badge of honor. You came, you started learning, you bought a bunch of garbage and the good stuff. You bought at Pico Top, and you watched it go crashing down, and you stuck around. Think of all the people that you got in with and all the loose conversations you had with brothers-in-laws and everybody. They're not around. They're not even thinking about it yet until the next story, in my opinion, is when Bitcoin breaks 100 grand. That's when the institutional folks are slowly moving in anyway, because they realize with it's a hedge against US dollar and US inflation, right? I saw a crazy stat before I forget. The amount of debt, this is crazy. The amount of debt that the U.S. is paying right now is just under and about to surpass the amount we spend on the military. And we spend a lot on our military. Dude, that's when you know you have a problem. The military, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it's over $1 trillion. Obviously, that's what we know about, and there's all the black ops and stuff, which is more in private pool money. But that number of the debt number, the interest on the debt that the U.S. has to pay for all the debt that they've issued is going to be higher than what we spend on the military. We are the top military spender. I know the stat I had in my brain like 4 or 5 years ago is we spend more than the next 5 highest spending countries combined. Now with China and Russia catching, I'm sure that number is like only the top 3 or 4 or 2 or whatever, but we spend grossly more on our military than any other country in the world by a long shot. So like if you don't think Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum and maybe even some of these other tokens aren't hedges against that, obviously, especially Bitcoin and maybe certain select runes. I got to throw those in there, right? Because Degen's got a Degen. But I think Bitcoin, it hasn't even, so that's why I'm calling out. Bitcoin hasn't even had so many people in retail and so many institutions haven't even begun to come in yet. I think $1 million Bitcoin in the next 5 years. And like I said, I'm not a predictor of when things happen and timing, but $1 million Bitcoin is not even out of the realm to me, because think about it. You've got real estate money, you've got gold, you've got stocks and bonds. Bitcoin serves so many different network effects. It's not just, digital gold. It's so many more things. So if the real estate market's overheated, then you can put it in Bitcoin. I mean, there's so many, there are so many use cases for it. And of course, fine art, right? But I don't even think we've, like, I hate to keep saying you're early, but in the long run, if things keep going this way, it's still got 10x plus to run, I would think, if not more.
Yeah, and what's kind of annoying about that, or annoying on how things are covered, is we're sitting there like, this is, name a holiday and we'll celebrate it as such. I know it's pizza day and everything, but if you really think about it, like, once again, it was like, I thought that after the halving, my crossing guard was going to be talking about, runes and what's coming or whatever. I thought that this morning, my news feed, my CNN or whatever was just going to be like, it's crypto day, and all this stuff. And even on CNBC, you can see the tickers. You see like Solana up, 5%. You see Bitcoin over 70,000, and it's radio silence still. Like, it is covered maybe, in the cycle, the Ethereum ETF potential approval, but you're just not getting this coverage. And I think you're right. It's going to have to hit like a seminal number to really wake people up to be like, oh my goodness, this is really back, and it's only going, like, numbers going to go up, and that's what people are going to be motivated by. And to what you're saying, the hedge, all the things that we've been, screaming from the rooftops about, like, to anyone who would listen, they're going to have to start listening. But it doesn't even really matter if it's more just they're going to maybe miss out on this opportunity. But, sometimes people miss out because they're not open-minded to seeing where things are headed.
Yeah, absolutely. So while you were talking about that, I just pulled up the top one. So obviously on the news, God, we haven't even gotten in the news yet. It's like there's so much cool stuff on the macro top of the mountain level as things stream down. But Bitcoin crossed 70 again, and on this show, like you don't focus on price too much because it's like, to us, it's about the fundamentals. But obviously a bullish sentiment when we went in this last dip, we were low 60s, right? I don't think we went into,
I think it was 59s,
okay,
like in 59s for a bit. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. So in the last couple of weeks, it went down. I think after the halvening, it was like that like the party's kind of over, everyone's hung over for a while, and with runes, with that, I think ordinals is feeling all that stuff. But Bitcoin's back at 70. Obviously,
well,
Ethereum. Yeah, go ahead.
We also, in that was the escalation of Iran and Israel. So that was a macro thing that impacted, kind of all the markets, and specifically more risk on assets.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But obviously the big news, and maybe we officially start there, is Ethereum.
All right.
Ethereum basically full green candle up, just went nuts. And that's, everybody thought, all the smart money thought, and certainly Polymarket, we can even look there too. Polymarket, there's our green betting Polymarket candle. But back in January we had, what was it, like it was like, it was actually high. Look, it was like beginning of the year it was 72%, and then it went down to 50, and then it just slowly trickled down the 20s, and then it was like, this ain't happening, man. I would have loved to buy a couple of weeks ago at 6 cents. Yeah. And now it's back at what, 61? It's back at 69. So it's just a turn of events. I mean, Jake Chervinsky and all those guys yesterday, and Seifert and all the kind of ETF specialists were like, everything's changed. So what do we know about that, Disco? So there's a great article this morning.
There's a ton of articles.
I know.
It's like where to start with the article side of it. But essentially, it came about earlier this week when the ETF analysts switched their numbers from, a 25% likelihood up to 75%. And that kind of set off a fury of everyone being like, what? What happened? What's going on? And it turns out that, obviously these are folks that are, dyed in wool within the space and understand, filings and things from that perspective. So they obviously saw some signs that, oh my gosh, this is now getting, brought back into life. And, it really started happening. They were asking the applicants to modify their request and their proposals. So that all went down. As of now, pretty much all of the big players in the, application prospect have revised their applications. So we're sitting here. I think the deadline is officially tomorrow. Who knows if we're going to get a fake tweet like we did before, right? With the Bitcoin one where it was a day early, right? And we're just kind of waiting now to see when this comes out. A lot of people are saying that it's completely tied to this larger sentiment. We can zoom out a little bit, and Trump started saying that he was going to accept crypto, and now you can go to the website and donate donate crypto to the campaign. So that's noted as an embrace of it. And then we almost had just this race of kind of covering your ass, right, from a political perspective of, I don't want to be on the wrong side of this. And I think that's really what kicked this all into play. And I think it kicked into get Gensler on the line and get him to turn his stuff around. That's incredible to see, right? That's the Trump now accepting crypto website. So that is, in and of itself, that is a sea change. And that wasn't going on 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, let alone years ago. So it's just this, the theme, I guess, is just this gradual, but not really, acceptance of this as a completely new, legitimized, asset, which we've all believed and wanted to have happen for quite a long time. So we're in a new kind of new setting.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trump's accepting crypto. So the first thing I wanted to see was like, which one's he accepting? So
I know.
So we got Bitcoin, we got Ethereum, we got Solana, we got USDC. Is that Ripple?
I think so. Yes.
Okay. We got Dogecoin. I don't even know what that one is because I'd have to zoom way in, but that one I think Shiba Inu. So interesting mix. Maybe that's like a Solana like bonk or something. That'd be pretty funny. Like
that'd be awesome.
Now accepting bonk. It's huge. But I mean, he's smart. He's using, like the Republicans jumped on this first, and now the Democrats literally, like, I would love to have been a fly in the wall in these last couple, I don't know if it was over the weekend or Monday, where the executive branch, someone like woke Biden up from his little nap or something and was like, sir, like, if you don't about face on crypto and get Gensler out of there, we're toast. But the Republicans are taking the lead, and as far as embracing crypto, now how many of them are embracing it for the votes and how many are truly into it? I think it's safe to say that like Cynthia Lumens and some folks like her are by far the Republicans like her are the most knowledgeable on crypto and have probably done the most positive in the space. I think you and I going to that Bitcoin Policy Institute in DC a couple of weeks ago, like, I don't know if that last one was a Republican or Democrat we saw, but it was just like, oh, hey, talking points where you're like, where it's like, when you hear the word blockchain a lot, it's like Andreas Antonopoulos always used to say blockchain or bullshit, like, because before your time, Disco, in the early days, it was always like, it's not the cryptocurrency that's important, it's the blockchain. And Andreas was always like, if you have a blockchain without any crypto or any other, like, there's like 7 things that make Bitcoin super interesting and unique. Like, if it's just the blockchain word, you might as well be using like Microsoft Access, like a database. Like, and in a lot of cases, databases make sense for companies, but like the whole blockchain thing. So, and that's what that last, I think she was a Republican, but she was on the bandwagon, but definitely was learning crypto like in the car ride over.
It was, just for clarity, it was Senator Marsha Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee.
You just did that like a Tennessee, like the honorable senator,
and that was, and then she started plugging Bitcoin Nashville. Remember?
Oh, she did. Yeah, we should. You
like,
can't
come on down. We're going to be doing.
I may be going to that, and I think Scribe's going to be there, so that'll be fun to meet him and some of the other folks. But
yeah, it's a fun town.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, the ETF could be approved as quick as today, right?
Wow.
Yeah, and ETH's already gone up to $3,700. So I know one of the big questions you had asked before the show, that's something to think about, is that ETH's run? I mean, that was a 20%. It was basically from 29 to 37, 39, whatever. So it went up a full 33% or 30% in a day. Is that ETH's run, or because this was so unexpected? Whereas Bitcoin, you knew, like, there was a month or two out where it's like, if you listen to the smart money, it's like, no, it's happening. It's definitely happening. So there was a lead in. A lot of people bought and then dumped once it went live. Now ETH could go down, I guess, to 3,000 again, but this one seems like such a surprise that seems like it'd be a riskier play. I don't think it's going to make ETH. I'm sure all the bankless folks are saying ETH's going to run to 10,000 now, like they've been saying for 5 years. But ETH will hold, I think. But will ETH go nuts and get the numbers that Bitcoin did? I think it's going to be more of a slower trickle, but it's still a win, right?
See, I don't know. Like, I get, we've talked about it, I'm always permeable and look at it through those lenses. And I remember before the Bitcoin ETF was approved, all we talked about was like the toothpaste squeeze, right? Like, how is there going to be enough supply? And if, we go back to, other shows when we were talking about Ethereum being a deflationary asset, and then we talk about the percent that's already staked, part of what really impacted the Bitcoin rollout was the GBTC sell-off, right? So you had all these inflows coming in on a bunch of them, but then they were kind of offset by the outflows from GBTC. So I'm just curious, how the supply is going to be impacted if we do, if this gets approved. Does that mean that, actually we are likely to see a significant, number up? And in my take, at this point, is I think we're just looking at kind of a knee-jerk positive reaction, and that it just wasn't baked in at all. But now I think if this becomes real today, which is so crazy to think, then we'll start really having to look at, the supply side of it and how they're going to be able to, acquire enough ETH to cover this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, remember the deflationary supply, it's not like it's I think it's slightly inflationary right now. We can look at what is it, ultrasound money to see, but it's definitely it's definitely positive right now in the last 7 days, but it's super small. It's 0.05%. If you look at the time frame of since the merge, it's definitely deflationary. Now, is it highly deflationary? No, it's pretty much break even, but it's negative 0.19%. But remember, Bitcoin is still inflationary at 450 Bitcoin a day, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually a very small inflationary rate of, I think that equates to like 2 or 3% tops. It's not a lot. And obviously in the next 4 years, that's going to go down by half again and again and again and again. So we know the total supply, right? So yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, there's 120,124,394 of these suckers right now. Oh, I'm sorry, 393. We just lost one to transactions and burns. So
right,
that is an interesting metric. That this is the first time a deflationary or a mostly deflationary digital currency has been available as an off ramp to the United States fiat dollar, which is it's mind-boggling to think about.
And since, like, the difference I'm trying to work through is, like, with the halving, we knew that meant the supply was getting cut and that would impact miners. Like, we're not really dealing with miners on this and, people dumping. So I don't know if there's going to be, any reason except for it to go up more than it currently is. But I don't know. Call me permeable, but I'm thinking we may actually end up seeing that, 10,000 plus number, because these things work. Like, people get into these ETFs. We've seen the inflow count. We've seen it compared to other ETFs. And I don't think, we can say all we want, like, oh, someone went down the hall and kicked the cat and said, why are you doing this with the freaking, upsetting the crypto markets? Larry Fink and those guys have a lot of influence as well. And they saw, revenue come in from having this offering. They saw the validity of it from, IBIT and everything like that. So if they're stirring it saying, hey, we want this to go through, even though the sentiment is so far, if they're going to push, almost an 80% switch in the likelihood, then there's dollars to be made on it. And I think the dollars are made with the number going up. So It'll be interesting, man. And it could be happening, as we speak. It's like you got half an eye on the charts and half an eye on breaking news just to see what that actual impact would be.
Yeah, I mean, 10,000 isn't out of the realm. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to be sooner than later. I think because remember, a lot of these big organizations, and when retail finally gets back in, it's going to take a while. The retail obviously has to see the news, FOMO, and then realize their neighbors making way more money than them. Sorry, neighbors. All of you should be apologizing to your neighbors and secretly laughing in their faces. No, you shouldn't do that. But
maybe you should have listened.
Yeah, it's going to take time, I think, because you got to figure the big institutions are gonna. You got to go through boards and you got to go through due diligence and all that BS to get it on the books. Now, obviously there's fast, nimble players, but it would be a pretty shrewd, smart play if you just look at Ethereum, as money and not as kind of the world's supercomputer. Then yeah, stockpiling, and a lot of these people, they don't have the depth of knowledge that we have on crypto. To them, they're just like, there's Bitcoin and then ETH is cheaper. It's less money. So let's go down, we'll go up the risk curve, quote unquote, and we'll pick altcoins, quote unquote. And we probably have more of a run there quicker than Bitcoin could have. So I just think it's going to take a time for big money to be like, it's already going to take a while to get 3 or 4 or 5% in Bitcoin as a hedge, but then you take 20% of that and put it in ETH. I don't know, but it'll take a while, but I think we agree in the long term, it's nothing but bullish.
Yeah. And just another kind of caveat to that, or addendum, if you will, we also had, Hong Kong approved Ethereum ETFs as well. The London Stock Exchange just approved Bitcoin and Ethereum. They call them ETPs, but it's essentially an ETF. So we're seeing it from a global, those are significantly large, investor markets and stock markets that we're talking about. And, there's then still, I think that the Wisdom Tree London one is for investors. Like, I don't think it's for retail at this time, but that could probably evolve and change. And then we've already talked about if mainland's going to be able to get involved with the Hong Kong assets. So it's just nuts. It's like you're waiting outside of the venue and it's a general admission show and there's only so much room and you really want to get a good position and it's like, I gotta get in there.
Yeah.
It's a stampede in the making, I guess, is how it feels right now, which is, bulls on parade, right? Rage against the machine.
Yeah. I mean, the UK, I think that is confirmed. Retail cannot get in yet, but somebody on the X timeline this morning were like, good, like buy direct and hold your own keys, you losers. But obviously, if you have retirement accounts at all, like I own a small business, so I can put, everything in Bitcoin. If you have a Roth IRA or a solo Roth 401k, you can put way more than the limit of like 7,000 in there just in Bitcoin, and then you can self-custody it. There's some cool stuff you could do now with some of these little fancier models, but there is some value to these ETFs and having access to them for those in corporate America who want to put in there. I mean, think about this. Can you imagine just corporations like, oh, now, when you and I were in corporate America decades ago, like you had the option, like, oh, buy the S&P 500. Oh, it was always back then it was mutual funds. Now, obviously it's been replaced by ETFs because they're cheaper to manage and cheaper fees and they settle in real time. But now, I mean, can you imagine if you had an IBIT and FDC or whatever Fidelity's is like, no brainer. ARC, the one we like, is it ARC B? ARC B. Yeah, it's got to be ARC B. Yeah. So, I mean, that option for people in their 401ks would raise it. I mean, I don't think we've seen anything yet. And it's going to take years. I think it's honestly going to take years.
I'm gonna make a personal revelation along those lines. My son is he's way ahead of me in terms of technology. And I think it was 3 years ago. He's like, NVIDIA is going to really do a lot. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, if you can find a way to get me some NVIDIA, I'm like, all right, we'll figure it out. And, off to the races, and we'll see what they do after the bell today. But he did that. But the funny thing is, so he's a caddy, so he gets paid in cash and has to, kind of report that way. My daughter just got a gig at a health club, and she has a 401k opportunity.
Oh.
And they were arguing, and he's like, well, I might quit caddying so I can get a 401k. I can't believe you have access to a 401k. I'd just be buying IBIT, and then I can buy Bitcoin and I'll have that. I was like, dude, I love that you guys are having this dialogue. Like, it's like it seeps out of the little closet that I'm working in, and they're starting to get some of the lessons from it. So it's really interesting to kind of see the opportunities for forward thinking youngsters on that.
That's a huge story. When I'm lucky, when my dad was very fiscally conservative and, pay yourself first and all that, but he showed me a compound interest calculator. If you can start even socking away a little, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old into preferably a Roth 401k. So it's post-tax, but it grows tax-free for the rest of your life, and it comes out tax-free. But if you can get in early and keep buying stuff in there, that compound interest by the time you are, 40, 50, 60 year old, it is snowballing. So for any young folks out there, just try and put some away, or stack sats. I guess that's the same thing to do it, but pay yourself first for sure. Because go ahead.
Yeah. You'd think they'd be more aggressive than they are on the marketing side of it right now for that audience. You think there'd be more of somebody would have figured out to really advocate for the Roth 401k option with these ETFs due to the potential stratospheric upside and then the lack of tax implications. So it's like, I don't know why that narrative isn't out there more, but maybe that's what ends up helping to kind of storm the brigade with getting, normies in the mix on it, because that's a pretty fail safe or, pretty guardrailed place to be able to do it and to be a part of this and to, have the upside without the big tax hit.
Yeah, and I think I keep going back to the guy that got booed at was that Ohio State? I think it was Ohio State. So he got booed, and he's like, I had a revelation, Bitcoin, and the way he did it, I have to admit, was a little cringe. But the guys with their hat backwards, like booing him right away. Like, all it takes is for a couple in a generation, especially that generation of 19 to 22 year olds and beyond, to make, be like, dude, I have like 200 grand now. And it was like, it started out as $128, and those friends are not going to be booing for long if this keeps up. You know what I mean?
100%. And I'll just take that one step further. I was asking my son, I'm like, so what are your friends like? What do they talk about? He's now going to be a senior in high school. And I'm like, and what's their take on crypto? And he's like, Bitcoin's everywhere. Everyone knows that Bitcoin's going to, be around. I can buy things with Bitcoin. And, he was talking about being on certain webs and, how you can pay on Bitcoin. So he was excited about that. But the other one, he said the gamers know about Ethereum. And then he said, nobody's really talking about Solana, but they all talk about Doge. And I think that's the Elon effect on that. Like,
that's
Doge is
definitely the Elon effect. And if X continues the way it is, kind of with television, obviously we're going heavy trying to stay ahead of the curve as TV gets in there. But Disco, we have two good listeners, and it's very apropos for what we're talking about right now. So Nifty had a good question. Nifty, you're going to have to type it. I don't know the rule of the 72. If you want to jump on here, I'll send you a link, but let me know the rule of 72. But one of my favorite people in this space and a fellow shroom holder, and I've been told our voices are very same. We both, we're both a little Kermit the Froggy, and no offense to Ski God, but it said, do you think the Dems win after all this? That post-election they go hard in crypto again, or would it be too far gone for good for industry? God, I wish I could predict. Like I said, I grew up a liberal. I am now a firm independent. Unless they like jail Trump or something, I don't see, even with this pivot, I don't know if I see the Democrats winning. And that, as a small business owner and obviously someone into crypto, I'm elated. But as someone who doesn't like a lot of stress and drama and like seeing like parents of their children died like in a war getting like mocked and stuff, like I'm like, ooh, that's strong for me. But I mean, as a small business owner, I saved more money in taxes, and not from Illinois, mind you, from the Fed, but when Trump came into office. But I think the Democrats are, I personally think they're in big trouble. And I'm independent now. I like RFK. I'm going to say it. Like I think his voice keeps him in. It's tough to be in the mainstream with a voice like that. But I will say, and this is going way off topic, and Disco just kicked me under the virtual table. But he started out with that lake, that rich Kennedy Lake and the mercury in it. And then he had these I'll never forget this story. And he tells it very eloquently, and even with his voice, which is hard to get past. But once you get past it, I believe him, because my wife and I delayed our kids' vaccines. We didn't not do them. We just delayed them because we had seen kids, like, I believe parents when they say that their kids were noticeably different. I think some kids have a certain gene or something, or they get a high fever, it spikes, and then it kind of affects them. So we grossly delayed our kids' immunizations. And what he said was these 10 women were sitting in the front of all his things about mercury in the lake. And he finally went up to speak to him. He's like, who are you? Like, what's going on? They're like, our children got affected by, I think the MMR was the big one that had all the thimerosal in it, which is mercury. And then that's when he started getting into that. So again, I don't want to go off on a whole diatribe, but some of the things he believes in, I used to research that a lot more. And I think he's, I know everyone doesn't love everything about but he's been pro crypto since the beginning. He actually knows about it. Like, I like the guy. I don't know if he's a chance of winning, but I like the guy.
I think I don't have the story in front of me, but I think I saw yesterday that he bought AMC to be in the loop on the retail side of it. But my answer really quick to that question is slightly different.
To ski gods or nifties?
Yeah, no, to ski gods. I love the question and I love the concept, but my thought is that I do think that they're going to have to toe the line of what they say about being friendlier to crypto, because I don't think I said this earlier today, and I've been thinking about it. I don't think it's going to be as partisan, and I think it's going to be more that they're going to be held accountable by the voters in their market. So if they are on the wrong side of this, and that people under a certain age are very pro this, I don't know if they're necessarily just going to go along with party leadership when they realize, wait, I'm going to be held accountable to the younger generations that supported me due to what I was saying. And right. I do think the younger generations will hold them to account. So I don't see there being a big opportunity to kind of pivot and then get all nasty again.
I have a slightly different nuanced take. I think that they, like with private keys, I think they don't want it because the Democratic Party has become kind of I think both parties spend too much money, and that's, let's be honest, with their national debt, that's really the big problem. But I think the Democratic Party is all about, we got this central planning, heavy hand of the government in industries, and kind of, whether they realize it or not, regulating winners and losers. Now, you don't want monopolies that can't be touched, and like Xfinity, like where you literally, like where I am, I don't have a second option, so I'm paying over $100 for basic internet, whereas my brother's in a town with 3 options, and lo and behold, it's $33. So it's completely a scam. But I think that's why the whole theme of this show, kind of to address Ski God, is like, I think blood is in the water. Gensler's wounded. The executive branch clearly did an about face here, because the polls and probably all the letters and tweets and everything showed that they are not going to win this one, and they're going to lose a certain percentage of votes in swing states. But I don't think, and hopefully a lot of these octogenarians retire who, they were born analog, and a lot of them are going to die analog. And that's not an insult, because Gen X, we were born analog and we're going to die digital, right? And guys like you and I are way more ahead of our generation's time of accepting crypto, understanding crypto, and staying curious along with a lot of the people, you know, in their 40s and their 30s and in their 20s. And I'm here for it, you know, and I love it. So I just think if we don't keep the pressure on them, I think they will try and fight other fights. That's why now I think you got A16Z. I think you got Uniswap. Like now I think you got a lot of big people who are on the attack. They served too many Wells notices. There was too many of these frivolous lawsuits the SEC is doing with our taxpayer money. With our money, they're going against people that you and I believe are making the financial system a better place and less nepotistic and less Long Island, right? Like all the country clubs and the market makers, like those days, there's always going to be some manipulation, but this system is just simply better, right? And it's less inflationary. I mean, period, the end. So Ski got awesome question. And thanks for getting me all hot and bothered about, but I think we keep the pressure on the Democrats and the Republicans, because let's see what happens. Let's say the Republicans sweep the Oval Office and, you know, on both sides. Let's see where they really stand. You know, you can do one thing to get votes, but, you know, obviously we know Cynthia Lumen's like, she's got Custodia Bank that the Fed has basically told, like, the Kansas City Bank, I don't know if you know this, the Kansas City Fed was like, yep, looks good. Your books look good. Doesn't look too, you know, and Custodia's whole formula was like, look, we're not going to loan out. We're actually going to hold it 1-for-1. So there's really no risk here. We're going to hold their funds and offer things for a fee for services and stuff, which sign me up for that, right? Instead of loaning my money out and playing this shell game where you don't actually, the fractional reserve banking, they weren't even doing that. And then the Fed from the Kansas City Fed changed everything and basically said, nope. First they ghosted them, didn't do anything. And then they said, nope, can't do it. So like so much of this shit's got to change. And remember the FDIC chair, like, dude, everything. And like I said, this isn't the final, like we're not over the wall to the castle. We are over the wall to like the outer, but like we fought the outer garrisons and now we're like, we're in their perimeter. We're in their farmlands. Yeah. We're not in the castle. We're not within the inner moat. We're not in the, you know, the sept, if you will, from Game of Thrones, but we have to stay moving towards that castle and keep attacking. Remember Chair Groomberg, from the FDIC, he just got booted. Like all these, because
all of the bad behavior is getting accounted
because of a toxic workforce. And that's the nepotism that we want to get rid of. We want the transparency. We want Congress. Like, I want to know what you spend. Like, yeah, granted, certain secret projects, like, yeah, you've got to keep some of that money dark so other countries don't know what we're doing. But otherwise, like government spending, put it all out there. Let's get this opaque crap out of the way and let's create a better America for our kids and their kids and their kids and their kids. That's the goal. And on the way, we're going to collect Wanko Manko and Satoshi Nakamoto Rune and Ordinal Punks and, of course, Bitcoin Shrooms, right? And Natcats. Can't forget Natcats. Disco. You haven't even brought up your Natcat, dude.
Well,
what the hell?
Dude,
Too much going on?
You just soliloquied, and I have like 17 different notes. One of them
was that like that was like 20 minutes, wasn't it? I gotta. Yeah, and I'm like, sometimes you got to be like, hey, Blustoshi, shut the fuck up, dude. It's my turn.
I didn't want to get in front of the steamroller. I have notes about like, dude, let's look at El Salvador. Like, how transparent is that? They actually have their, you know, you can go to the tracker and see, you know, their count of Bitcoin, which is insane. We should definitely pull that up later. I have notes about how Uniswap and their bite back against the SEC does nothing but represent, like, you're going after one of the most pure assets and developments, and you will end up on the wrong side of history for questioning, you know, what we're doing there. And then, you know, I have this whole Generation X. Like, I hate that our friends and people in our peer group all feel like they missed it, and they didn't. You know, there's still time. So it's just a myriad of things. But I second, you know, what you've been saying, and it's just such a great time to do this show and to be able to work through all this. What did Nifty have to say?
Nifty just said, so it was the law of 72. And now that he said it, I have heard of it. So you could double your money in 10 years. So 7.2 is the magic number. 7.2% interest on your nest egg doubles every 10 years. So if you start when you're 18 or 21, like it doubles by the time you're 28, then 38, then 48. And obviously, as you go on, your skills are probably getting better. You're probably making more money, so you're putting more in. So you're snowballing the snowball, right? So the earlier you invest, always, I know some of you have jobs that are, obviously if we're 2D gen trading, we might be, in a Dunkin' Donuts drive-through or McDonald's, but like anything you can save and we say stack sats here, right? But, or get ETH or whatever, but anything you can save, do. And I guess, Disco, this is a good time to remind people, like, runes are awesome. Ordinals are awesome. I think a lot of us from the ETH days learned that, like, we have wallets and wallets filled with things we minted where it's like, oh, that's only 0.02 ETH. That's only 0.005 Bitcoin. Like, pick stuff that you'd be like, in 20 years, like, is this going to be awesome? Is this what I want? Like the chatFUKRs for sure. Like that, I was so stoked to get. Even the Natcat, I was super stoked to get because for me, that's another first. But I'm really trying to be more hesitant to just get whatever, wherever. And I would say my discipline's gotten way better, but it's still fun to degen too. It's just, there's good stuff out there.
Yeah, there's so many different, opportunities to look at things. And I think you've said something before, some of these projects that come out, like if you're still interested in vibing on them, down the road after the mint day or whatever it is, like there's probably going to be an entry point that you can get in and you can kind of stalk a project and find what you really want to be involved with. So you're not really going to miss too much necessarily if you don't jump in at the first go and, kind of question if you want to give up any of your Bitcoin at this point, or, even Solana or, now Ethereum as well. It's like the underlying asset at this point, we're seeing significant upticks and we haven't seen that correspond with, with the assets from an ordinal or NFT perspective to the same degree. You're seeing Solana, like almost every time I look at that, it's up 5-6% a day. So I don't know if you're going to get those sort of returns on the others. So it really does come down to what do you want to support and what do you want to collect and what kind of gives you that good feeling. I know that yesterday I picked up, a chatFUKR and it gave me joy. And it's not like I'm displaying it in the front of my house or anything, but I like looking at it in my wallet and I'm like, dude, that thing's awesome. So if you kind of feel like that thing's awesome, like get more things that you think are awesome.
I just love that you said a chatFUKR. The chatFUKR brings me joy. It does.
It does. Like, it really does. And it's like, I look at it, I'm like, dude, I like the colors. I like the story. I'm like, and I'm always thinking like, dude, that stuff is going to look fire when I put together this gallery and we have people actually kind of walking around and checking stuff out. So you can curate your collections and just kind of look at it from that longer lens, I think is valuable for everyone just to reconsider.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, the chatFUKRs are so awesome. You gotta give the chatFUKR scroll and Rainer's just a G. Ooh, that's a cool one. That powder blue one facing right there. But Ski God, this is pretty big news. And I guess since we jumped over, like here, let's go back so we can actually see his comment. But I 100% agree with this. So Ski God listed his CryptoPunk today. So he and I are kind of in the same boat. Like I'm a huge Ordinals fan. I know he is too. I've had a CryptoPunk. They came out in 2017. They went on chain, I believe, in 21. Before it was almost like a reference pointer. It was almost on chain, but now they're like the little SVGs are officially on chain. But to me, that's big news. And I think what I pride ourselves on this show, like we jump wherever because everything is always so intertwined with each other. But I haven't listed my CryptoPunk and I'm in a weird position because I bought it. I shrewdly bought it with $1,000 ETH, they were down the year I bought it. It was probably 22 fall or something, but I bought it. I had to buy it for like 95 ETH or something. I'll admit it. And it's one that actually, when I have a goatee, or actually with the mustache, it's called a Van Dyke. Goatee, I guess, is just the bottom part. So technically a Van Dyke. So it actually looks like me. Even my daughter was like, "Hey Dad, that looks like you." I'm like, "Yeah, I had to get it." So I definitely overpaid probably by like 10 ETH. It was probably worth like 85 at the time, but now it's probably worth like, I haven't looked at the floor price today. I know yesterday it was at 36. So maybe, mine's, it's a good looking one, but it's certainly not even a solid mid with the top hat, or certainly not in the hoodie class. So I could probably get, maybe if I sit on it, like 45 ETH, and that might even be a pipe dream. So if I sell it for 45 ETH, Disco, so what did I spend? 95 ETH. So I spent about 100. Oh my God, this is embarrassing. Like, do I use real US dollars?
Go with it.
So I spent $100,000 on the CryptoPunk, and I love the CryptoPunk. It's a forever punk. And now, ETH it's not at 4, but let's just say ETH's at 4.
Say 4 for math.
And let's say I could get 40, right? So basically I would sell the CryptoPunk at a massive ETH loss. I'd lose more than half my ETH, and I'd pay the whatever the capital gains, the long-term capital gains on the 60 grand is. It's just like my ordinal punk. I love my ordinal punk. So obviously that's so tied to who Blustoshi is, right? I would love to use my shroom, but my shroom is, it's Pac-Man.
That's a good shroom.
It's inky. Yeah. It's my favorite. It's the one I wanted, and Shroomtoshi held it for me. So I was very happy about that, but I think I'd almost have to paint him blue since my name's Blutoshi, or just change my name to Red Toshi. But like this, so if I sold this guy, I got it for 4.5 Bitcoin, but Bitcoin was only like $17,000. So I got it for like 85 grand. One could probably call me an idiot to overpay, but he's probably still worth that. I could probably get 4 because the better male punk, ordinal punks go for higher. If I sold this thing now, I would sell it for 240, 250. So basically I'd be paying like 160 in capital gains tax. I mean, it's just like, and and this one I might lose a little Bitcoin, but it's such a horrible thing. So Ski God, I feel with it. This is our little side commercial of like, the pains of the crypto, the underlying going up. Right.
And the golden handcuffs, right? And that side of it. But the other thing that we should talk about is what was the news this week that, really torqued people in the community, right? Didn't Yuga make some announcements that pissed a lot of people off?
Yeah. So I guess we have to,
that's kind of what prompted a lot.
Now that we threw the cart down a very steep street in San Francisco, like, where's the horse? So here comes the horse. So yes, there was a 5. So it was kind of a neat idea that the CryptoPunks were going to do a in-residence artist. And this artist, Nina, I don't remember her last name, but she's been in MoMA. She is world renowned. But so she had a 500, remember there's 10K CryptoPunks. There's 500 of these. So within the CryptoPunk community only, you could bid on these. I'd have to I want to pull one up. I guess and if you're listening to the show, any timeline has seen these things, but, I don't know if Nifty has it or Ski God. I'll post it on your tweet, and I'll pull up your Twitter timeline to show it. But it wasn't my style of art, and it was very I guess it was a very kind of like political, gender neutral, if you will. So there was some statements behind that. I think I actually didn't look too much into it. The art, I probably wouldn't have bid on one, but there was an absolute uproar. And I don't go on the CryptoPunk Discord chat much, but that morning I'm like, scroll back. Do I scroll back 100? No, I'm scrolling back 200. Like get the second cup of coffee.
Get the popcorn.
Get the popcorn. And I think some of the takes were there was a lot of anti-wokeness. I guess for me, and I don't know how Ski God feels like, I just don't mess with the CryptoPunks. I would honestly, now that Bitcoin punks are out and nothing's been done to stop those, I don't know what you could do to stop those. You're going to stop 10,000 anonymous people from something that was minted immutably on the mother chain. Like, there's nothing you can do. just make them CCO, like just set them free. But you know, it's like if Yuga saying they're not, like, now we know not to touch them or do anything. The only way Yuga can make money by not touching or doing anything is I think they have about 1,000 reserve supply. I don't know if it's still 1,000, but they've got 10% of the supply. Call it 5, 10, 12%. Don't know what they hold right now, but it's a lot, right? So you could slowly pepper those and sell those. But for a business, that's not a recurring revenue model, right? So that's not the VCs and all your backers who, you know, came in and just squeezed the rock at other deeds and all those other kind of seemingly failed projects. We'll see how other side goes, but selling virtual land is about the biggest Ponzi you could possibly imagine. But so it was not well received anyway, these 500 pieces, even though it was going to be like an auction. And Garga quickly came on, basically said, we're not doing in residence. We're not touching CryptoPunks. We heard you loud and clear. And he just came back to run the company for, I don't know who was running it before, but whoever it was not doing a very good job. I don't follow Yuga a ton except for having that CryptoPunk, but I'm kind of with Ski God. Like part of me wants to just run another validator or two with whatever I get with the CryptoPunk, or turn it over to Bitcoin and get another Bitcoin shroom. But I would definitely not sell a Bitcoin shroom right now. I definitely would sell a CryptoPunk way before I'd ever sell my ordinal punk or any ordinal punk. So, you know, for us, it's Bitcoin and ordinals all the way. But it's just another misstep by Yuga on a year of gross missteps. They're just not relevant anymore.
Yeah. It's a sign of the times, right? Like it's a sign of, you know, the projects that are, you know, it's evolve or kind of die in a weird way, right? Like you gotta make sure that we've talked about that theme forever, like how hard it is to, you know, stay on top, right? And to, you know, there's people that are going to be able to innovate based on what you've done. Wait, hold on, I gotta look at this. What do we got here?
Nifty. First time I ever hallucinated was from shrooming my freshman year in college. I wonder if, you know, it'd be funny.
Nifty. We have stories to share.
Well, it's just like, that is exactly, well, let me tell you some stories. Like, let's see, I've got like 6 years till my kids are in college. So remind me in 6 years, but it'd be funny. Nifty and I were probably like roommates down the hall, because like very similar experiences. And I will say it changed my life. Like my math skills, like being in super high level accelerated, like engineer math, those might've faltered a little, but I got way more creative and way more spiritual and way more in line with who I am and what I want to do. So, you know, sometimes the fun guy in the earth can show you the way to the universe and the stars and the sun and the moon.
In Denver, Colorado, there's a Shroom Fest convention that's coming up in a little bit, and it's like thousands and thousands of people. So, you know, how all that's innovating in terms of the microdosing and, you know, all that sort of stuff. I haven't delved into that pond, but it does seem pretty interesting what people are pulling off and what they're getting out of that for sure.
Yeah, for me, it has to be I had so many good experiences in college, and then I had a really bad one just like in my last week of college. It was almost like, well, you're a grown up now. Like the fun is over. So I got super paranoid. And then even with weed, I would get paranoid. So now if I partake in anything, first I have to start out alone, like perfectly isolated barometric chamber with music, and be like, how am I feeling? And then be like, okay, like maybe I could see my wife, be like, oh, this is too weird, you know? And then I slowly have to introduce my society from like the coffin through like, I'm feeling kind of social. Maybe a party would be good. But if I get going and have a good buzz, if you think I talk a lot now when I'm sober, like I'm solving like global space travel issues when I'm on anything, even like what anyone would consider a very small dose. So
like a small morsel.
Yeah, a small morsel. And I'm going for 8, 12, 14 hours easy, because my brain, all it needs is like, here's a little reminder. And I'm like, you know,
future show.
Yeah, exactly. Nifty, we got to have you on to just tell all these stories.
Water fountain.
God, I want to tell my peanut butter. Oh, the peanut butter, like any tactile thing when you're like shrooming or something like that is such a weird like I remember I was in Amsterdam once and I was wigging out and I smoked it in the red light district. I went to the last page of the menu and it was like government issued XXX experimental only. And this was after I had my paranoid event, and I was with a German, a couple Canadians, like I was traveling kind of international with all these people I had just met. And I'm like, sure, I'll get that one. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And like 10 minutes later, I told them, it was like 10 in the morning. I'm like, I have to go. And I walked, I kid you not, I walked from 10 in the morning until like 6 a.m. the next morning. Never went to the hostel. Oh no, I went to the hostel to get my backpack and then I caught my train. That was Amsterdam. So my next stop would have been Paris. So I didn't even get to say goodbye to them or anything. They saw me and I was like, I'm so, like they kind of woke up, turned over in the hostel and I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like I wigged out, but I got so thirsty. I just having to kept drink water and there was no amount of water that
could satiate
it. It wasn't like that for the whole 20 hours, but like 8 to 10 was just like, and there was a woman, all the houses in Amsterdam have there's huge, like door sized double opening windows on the second floor. And I was top paranoia where the whole universe, like the lid of my brain had opened up. And I look up and there's this old woman and she goes, Ree! And she slammed her two big, awesome Dutch doors. And I was like, oh, she's a witch, and it was just bizarre. But again, that's so I digress from digressing on the digress.
I have to now remind everybody that if you're enjoying the content and you like the flow, we would encourage and be very happy for any of the likes or follows or anything you guys can do, retweets, stuff like that. Like we're trying to create something that has no, shackles of, we need to follow this or be cognizant of that. As you can see, we'll kind of freestyle and go with the flow and try to tackle different subjects with a nuanced perspective. So again, anything you can do to get the word out, it's always appreciated. And as we say, like, I think that was walking evidence that if you interact with us via the comments and stuff, we're more than game to work it into the program. So thanks, Nifty, for providing that little segue, which I enjoy. And let's keep going.
It's pretty easy for like, how hard am I to sidetrack Disco? Nifty's like kickball. I'm like, oh my God. Like, let me tell you, in second grade.
Have I got a story for you?
John Sayers, well, I was first grade.
Over the fence, broke the window.
Right field, so only lefties could do it, through the window of the house. It was perhaps the greatest. It was our natural moment, right? And that was many years ago. And he didn't even do it, and I digress. So, Disco, thanks for getting us back on track. So,
yeah, again, but there's just, I don't even know what to go back to because, again, like it's such a big, there's so many toppings on the pizza. It's like, which do we want to talk about, and how do we circle back, and how can we possibly, cover it all? So I guess taking kind of that pressure off and just kind of seeing what makes the most sense to talk about. Do we want to talk Bitcoin at all today? I was looking at a story. People are pretty bullish on it hitting an all-time high. Looks like it's going to run somewhat in correlation with Ethereum and an ETF approval. If that happens, the inflows recently have been looking pretty positive. So, it's just the whole ball of positivity going on in terms of seeing some of this activity has just been great.
We're back in the 69. Come on. Get over. We started the show at 70, but
come on, Nifty, place a buy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bitcoin too. I just saw a stat a couple days ago. The amount of new Bitcoin addresses added was like at an all-time low like a week ago. I have a feeling that'll change now, but maybe with the ETFs too, like a lot of it will go. Those ETFs probably have a couple wallets they hold and cycle through or whatever, but it doesn't take as many wallets. But so when we see a lot of wallets going up, we'll know retail's getting back in. I think they peaked before the halving when, Bitcoin reached all-time highs, which it never does. But, remember the all-time highs in Bitcoin always happen. Historically, it's been 6-7 months, 8 months.
It lags, right?
After the halving. Yeah, because the pinch isn't felt right away. But now it's the perfect storm. So let's just see. But really, until the big institutions get in, it's just going to be a slow burn, because when people buy, when you make a 200 million buy, you've got to do it in piecemeal. At some point, if one entity's doing it, you can kind of sneak it in and keep the price, it'll go up, but you can kind of sneak it slow. But you get 5, 10, 20 institutions doing this. At some point, everyone might be just the full run on the, the 3 Xbox One units that are available, at the Walmart for the debut, or even better was the Nintendo Wii. You couldn't get that thing. That thing was sold out for 2 years. And I used to, in corporate America, they were a client of mine. So I got one the day it came out in America. So I literally had a Nintendo Wii 2 years before anyone else could even get it. And I used to just have bowling. Actually,
I knew it was going to be bowling.
Yeah.
That's what,
yeah.
I was going to be we play bowling, right?
Yeah. We'd have the young nephews over. I remember when you guys lived in the area, it was an event. Be what is this? Cause that was just a game changer. But again, I think it's so exciting, going off topic, but even today, did we even talk about FIT21? Today, the vote, there's a huge,
not really.
Yeah, we're just bouncing around, but today there's a big vote today. I don't know if it'll pass or not, but it's just going the full offensive. But FIT21 is basically getting rid of all the old Howey test and all this SEC stuff and all these old rules, and coming out with new rules to be what is the project? What chain is it on? How adequately decentralized is the chain? So obviously on the Bitcoin, on Bitcoin and on Ethereum, probably better chance. On, a down the line, or maybe even in Ethereum L2, where many of those have single multi-sigs holding that, and a multi-sig is just 3 people or 4 people or 5 people all turning the key at the same time, but it's still very centralized and being held. So much of the decentralization on that layer 2 is still pure smoke and mirrors. So big vote today. I'm not optimistic, but what were you going to say on that, Disco?
Well, I'll just jump in looking at, FIT21 and trying to kind of get a handle on what it actually does. And at the beginning, I was my first take on it was I don't know if it's got a lot of teeth and if it really, is going to be a huge impact. But upon further review and consideration, I have to kind of pivot on that and realize that, the 2 main elements really are the consumer protection, and then the second one is really the clarity for innovators, so you're looking at both the kind of the people that are building and then the people that are, buying. And the 2 main points that it achieves really is to provide an actual definition of digital assets, and then to provide clarity between securities and commodities and who regulates what. So right now the SEC grabs everything, and FIT21 is basically a check your head at SEC, stop, you don't get everything, you can't run around like this. And basically the SEC would be able to kind of have coverage over restricted digital assets, whereas the CFTC, or the Commodities Future Trading Commission, right, would be, in charge of the truly decentralized digital assets. And yes, Ethereum, I believe, passes their decentralization test. There's a decentralization test in there. But what's also interesting in this legislation is that it provides the opportunity to evolve from a restricted digital asset into a decentralized digital asset as that comes to life and as the project evolves. So that's a big significant change, and it's just I think it's really incredible. I think that I don't know, what a surprise. I'm bullish that it's going to pass, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It came so fast, but I think the coolest thing about this is that obviously our lobby for crypto is getting stronger. And maybe we Main Street USA, and I'm going to call not just us, but everybody who's listening in the space, OG crypto right now, we may not always be aligned with, the A16Zs but I think for right now we are, and, there's a big fight there and a lot of thought. I really have to digest this FIT21 because there's so much to it, but a lot of thought has clearly gone into this where it separates what the CFTC versus, is it a commodity or is it a security like Disco was saying, and they should be treated as such. And to me, just knowing that allows for better protections because if it's a total security bag pump, then like you and I have seen I've gotten screwed before, but we've seen so many rugs and bag pumps. Yeah. We haven't jumped into a ton of those, but Solana, I think when they first launched their whole kind of secondary token market with all the bonks and stuff, like we weren't reporting on all of them, but there was a rug a day, like 21 million here, 48 million, like, 21 million, 48 million in the grand scheme isn't a lot, but people were just getting rooked left and right. So it'd be really nice to know, is it a commodity? If it's a commodity and it's on a chain that is adequately decentralized, which we know Bitcoin is, and ETH, I feel like it is. I'm a validator. I'm no whale. Even Lido, who used to have 33% of the whole validator pool, has gone down. I haven't checked it lately, but like a month ago, I think they were at 25%. So a lot of people went out of that. Staking yourself isn't that hard. And I guess, Disco, this is a good time to bring up that the ETFs that could get approved as early as today, one thing we're 99% sure they had to pull, because we know one of them pulled, was the staking element. So, I mean, can you imagine an ETF where they're like, not only are you buying Ethereum through an investment network that you can hold in a retirement account, but that thing, regardless of the ETH price, is accruing interest. Like, it's only 3% or so, but that's awesome. Like it's mind melting. Yeah. And it's like we said, either a non-inflationary asset, and at busy network times, it's a deflationary asset. So yeah, just so much to think about, but this feels, I hope you're right. How cool would that be? Like this is almost like, I feel like we've been on defense so much. Like it's like, I know you weren't a huge gamer in your 20s, but there was this awesome game called Ninja Gaiden where like it was the first game I played in a long time where defense, like you couldn't just hack and win the game. You had to be like, oh, this boss is like defense, like side roll, then knee swipe. Like you like I couldn't beat the first boss for a while until someone's like, no, dude, like it's a defensive game with counterattacks. I feel like this is where we are with crypto. We've been defensive so long, keeping the shield up, doing the sideways ninja dive rolls, and now we're just like, we found the vulnerabilities, we've gained confidence, and we're on the offense, and we've got to keep the pressure. So, I mean, the show theme is just obvious today, but it just, I can't say it enough, and it feels good.
Well, I'm a big feels guy, so I'm going to jump all over what
you are. But you're
there.
the in-house therapist, which is nice.
I'm a massive feels guy, and just it sucked, and it was you almost had to operate, unless you were in a circle of other people who have gone down the rabbit hole and taken the pill and been involved. You almost had to operate with an element of shame with something that you were passionate about, and that is a discordant situation, and it's not congruent. Like if you're really excited about what you're learning about and investing and communicating and growing communities with, and then you leave, like you take your headset off or you get away from your phone or your computer and you're working and you're interfacing in real life, you don't want to feel ashamed of something that you have so much passion for. So it does really kind of make you feel like a nice, kind of kick to your gate, a little better posture when it's like, dude, I don't have to be like this isn't some dirty
to your gate, a little kick to the gate.
Yes, a little swing to the hip, So I don't know. And then really quick, I just wanted to touch on this because I think just to kind of wrap up or to talk a little bit more about the FIT21.
Right.
One thing that came out today was a statement of administration policy from the White House. And the significant note in there is it says the administration is eager to work with Congress to ensure a comprehensive and balanced regulatory framework for digital assets. So regardless of how, the things in the next couple of hours play out, the ground is being laid for acceptance. When you have the president saying we want to work with Congress on, the right thing to do with digital assets, just seeing digital assets in that context is, super bullish, right?
Yeah. And it definitely feels like jujitsu here. Like we've got them. One of my business partners, he was a big jujitsu guy. And he said, if you do jujitsu right, you can move literally in slow motion and put the move in like first you go here, and he's a coder. So he's a very methodical human being. He said, you can literally go in slow motion and there is nothing they can do. And that's what this feels like
the inevitability of it, right?
But we're finally we've been playing defensive. So we got our Ninja Gaiden analogy, but now we're going to jujitsu, and we are now pressing, and they're kind of throwing a truce flag, but we don't trust them, right? Because there's going to be the private key issue. They're going to fight on other hills, and the private key ones, now we're galvanized. Now we get together and you and I get all the data and stats we can, and we pepper our timelines with that and the fun degen stuff, but we are here to fight.
Yeah. And the leverage feels like it's shifted, at least it's been acknowledged that, hey, these aren't just, and the other thing that's kind of, feels good about it too, is that we kind of flushed the system at the last one, right? Like it was like it seemed like all the bad stories all kind of came out, and they always say when the tide goes out, you see what's left exposed or whatever. Right. And if Uniswap's left and they're going after Uniswap, it's like, all right, you're going after like real good fighters. You're putting yourself in a tough position to win some of these battles, as opposed to like, oh, I'm going to go after FTX or something like that, where it's like, dude, okay, that's like a little punching bag for you guys. So they're picking fights with Coinbase, they're picking fights with Kraken, they're picking fights with Uniswap, and
Disco. That's an important point. They never picked a fight with FTX. So, and Gensler has ties to the parents through an old teaching gig at MIT or wherever he was, and I think they're Berkeley folks or Stanford folks. But what a joke of a institution. And the fact that Hayden and the Uniswap team, obviously they've got A16Z on their back. A16Z, I don't follow VCs closely, but they are hands down probably the most successful VC in this generation by far. Now they've galvanized, not only paying, like giving a super PAC for politicians, but also like the lobbies starting to work. You got Jake Travinsky, who's a hero in my book, like who's not only educating us, but fighting the good fight. And our guy, I don't know if you know this, Disco, you might've seen it, and I don't even think we put it in the news this week, that Bitcoin Policy Institute, that young guy, Zell, I don't remember his first name, but the kid who runs it, this kid's got to be 30. He runs the Bitcoin Policy Institute out of Washington, D.C. They just launched a legal fund, which I am definitely going to donate to, that is protecting non-custodial tools and decentralized code, right? Because you got the Tornado Cash. They're going after him. They're going after Samurai Wallet. So that dude, those two young guys and that whole organization and now I've got to like reach out to him again, but he's got to get back to us. Maybe we have him on the show. But so the fight, they're returning the fight, because that's an important one too. Should somebody, the guy in the Netherlands went to jail for 5 years. Should someone go to jail for writing code that's decentralized and open source and they're not using it illegally, but it was used by somebody else to, use privacy to hide their money? Should that be illegal for the people who do it? Sure, but should that be illegal, or should that be what it is in America right now? And that's why we have cryptocurrency. That's why we have cryptography, because of our friend Zimmerman. What's his first name? Steve or
Phil?
Thank you, Phil Zimmerman, because he fought, and basically he could have been charged for treason for exposing cryptography code. And I don't know if it was SHA-256 or the precursor to that, but that guy's a hero, because that's how we're able to bank online. That's how we're able to have secure passwords to all our least favorite websites like Meta and Instagram and all the other bullshit TikTok and Snapchats that's out there. But X, we love X. Elon, we love you. And thanks for creating.
Viva. It's a renaissance.
Viva Elon. And this morning, Disco, Elon has offered to be the moderator for RFK, Biden, and Trump for an X debate. Now, we know Biden would never take that bait, because Biden probably needs, like, speaking of shrooms, like a microdose elixir just to be like, what? America, But Trump, I mean, he probably has no incentive to go off and do it either if these guys just get a one-on-one with each other. I mean, to me, give me more parties. Like, I know the European system, there are faults with it, but at least then coalitions have to come together, and the will of the people could be better representatives. I'm sure there's the same complete bullshit promises and stuff like that, but let's get more parties in this country, because the two-party system to me feels like a one-party system that has two ties in the wardrobe.
Yeah, well, I'd like to shout. That's very encouraging to hear that Zell is moving in that direction, and it kind of goes to one of the things that we might want to start focusing on, and we've touched on in the show, which is not necessarily activism, but getting involved in advocating. And as you've said multiple times, like, there's so much talent in this space, and so many people with vision and hustle in this space, that having us, some people kind of get
like
out of
freshman year baseball coach, and he's got moxie and hustle.
All right, I said a kick to my gate earlier, so
yeah. I'm gonna do. I don't watch many of our shows, but I may have to go back to this one. I'm just gonna get a laundry list on you. Be like, I don't know, Disco. Some of these terms are a little dated, but I'm sure then I'd listen to myself and be like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's go back to the long stroll in the field we did. Days past. Like, I'd be happy to
steal. I haven't even talked about steal the bacon or German dodgeball.
I haven't heard kick the can yet, or a medic. Medic may have been the most underrated, frankly. Like,
it wasn't under Medic. Medic is the best version of dodgeball you can possibly have. For those who don't know Medic, it is a version where you have two sides, just like always. The key in the basketball, the free throw rectangle box, the paint. Thank you, Disco. I'm describing it in these metaphysical terms. Like, dude, it's the paint. So the paint is the hospital. You have two medics on each side. If you get hit in the front lines, the medic can come out, but it's risky, especially if a guy's he's kind of hiding the ball behind the thigh and the butt. Like on the sides, he's just pretending to chat with his friend. Like, the medic goes down, then you're in big trouble, because then you got one medic, and then he's got to obviously get the medic first, right? If you get both medics, you're screwed, because then you can't bring anyone to the hospital. If you drag someone who gets hit to the hospital, they get back up and they're saved. By far the best version of volleyball. I mean, Skokie Scatter was I won it once. I don't know if you ever won Skokie Scatter. I might have won it twice, but it's where at the end,
I never won.
Everybody, it's like 100 kids, full court, every man, woman, and child, well, every boy and girl for themselves. And the beginning strategy is simply, you can go for a ball, but there's 8 balls out there. Do not get hit, because all it takes is for the first grader behind you to be like, bink. You're like, wow, I had a perfect strategy. You got stay safe early, and then the court will get smaller as people get knocked out. But once it's a little more spread out, then you got your territory. You catch a couple, you dodge a couple. But the key is it's just like starting in a Formula One race or in a stock car race. Early, just like find the problems on the turns and don't crash and don't get involved in a big spin up, and then you can be in the race. So
again, if you're enjoying the content that we're providing, please like, subscribe, and retweet. We are now talking about Medic is an evolved version of Bombardment.
Was it called? Is the original called Bombardment? I thought it was Dodgeball.
Oh, but there was Bombardment, was another variation of Dodgeball that we had.
Is that where you like hit pins in the back though, or something?
Yes.
Yeah. Props, no props. Like the key for the hospital is a good enough prop. No like pins.
Actual like juggling pin, or it was bowling pins. Yeah.
They were like lawn bowling. They were like weird wooden big things, but they weren't like white striped pins. Anyway, so I just made fun of you for all your lingo, and then all it takes again is a drop. Like,
yeah, it was just a little. I just threw a little crumb out there.
Skateboard wheel. Oh, let me tell you. Okay, we won't even.
Did you guys Did you like independent trucks? Like, were those cool, or did you like slide balls for your wheels?
Indies were actually the best trucks. Gull wings were like kind of the poser truck because they actually indented in, and then the bolt would hit the curb. So gull wings, you could use those on a ramp, but not for street skating for sure. But indies were. But there was one called Thrasher, Tracker. No, Trackers were posers too. There was one that came out after Indy, and they were just like indies though. But those were kind of the cool ones, and they grind the best on the curbs. Why are you doing this to me, Disco?
Well, I will take it one step further. I think, I always talk about having an affinity for brands and how they're developed, and independent trucks is one of the most iconic, like clean, perfect, like you have an independent trucks t-shirt, like it holds up, and like they did a really good job on that. So that's always one of my kind of grails in terms of a lifestyle brand that did it.
Yeah, I would say my favorite from that era was the Mark Gonzalez Santa Cruz board. That's the board I learned to ollie on, and it was like this digital pixelated. I'll see if I can pull it up real quick, but I am a huge deck. Let's see if I can pull. Here we go. Nice first try. That's what I like to see. Let's pull it up. So this was the first board that I learned to ollie on. Yeah, there's just something about it. Let's see if I can. Come on, subscribe and save.
I just want to see the picture.
I literally can't shut it. Let's see if I can zoom. No, I can move it around. That's kind of weird. Anyway,
different color variations on the side, like
yeah, dude, this was like an absolute classic. The original did not have these variations. I'll show you which it was.
And Vision is a slept on brand too. Like they had a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, but the Vision streetwear stuff was kind of poser. Like the shoes, like they kind of went overboard. I just didn't. You know what? I think it was that blocky style that evolved. That was like 3 years after this. I had the shoes, but they were like clown shoes, and the Vision streetwear turned into like the big, like it almost like, remember when Tommy Hilfiger went like just like you couldn't make the logo big enough on a shirt, and of course to us that's super cringe. That's kind of what Vision streetwear did back in the day. Like it wasn't subtle. Like I don't know if you notice, like Apple, when Steve Jobs is alive, the Apple logo, like you either couldn't get it on any clothing or anything. And now, do you notice like on your phone, like remember when things used to boot up, the Apple logo would be super small on your device because it was Steve was like, he didn't want to overpower you. Like 3-4 years after he left, obviously what's his face, the new guy was like the CEO of JCPenney. How he got that job is beyond me. But
Tim Cook.
Yeah, Tim Cook, he's doing a good job, I guess. But then the Apple logo, if you noticed, it got bigger and bigger. And to me, it's the same thing with the Mercedes. Like I'm not a fan of Mercedes at all. No offense to those who are, but it used to be a subtle little car emblem on the front of your car. Or the old school 70s where it was on top of the hood. Then have you seen the grills of these cars now? The Mercedes logo is like It's
Yes.
it's as
It's
big
like
as my
a
head.
hubcap. Yeah,
And
it's a hubcap.
and do you notice at night it's lit up? It's like if you are an upscale brand and you have to scream, look at me, you have lost the plot. And I think you're losing, you know?
Yeah, because like from an auto perspective, like Jaguar always kind of had low key stuff, and it was always super cool.
Yeah, and you know who else has low key stuff in my opinion? Unless you know Teslas, you don't.
Yeah.
You know how you know which Tesla it is? You look at the doors. The X has the two handles right next to each other. The Y looks like the X, but the handles are apart, and the 3 is just way smaller. And then the S is more of a streamlined sedan. So you have to look at the very subtle cues. And the logo in the front is not huge. Elon's not he did it right, and that's what good premium branding is. Wow, we're everywhere. I love this. This is fucking fun.
Just a bit of an update. The FIT21, they're saying that they're going to vote this afternoon, and it's expected to get bipartisan support and pass. I guess there's at least 9 Democrats who are saying that they're going to. Yeah, but we have to then understand that then we have Senate, you know, and then it's got to go. So it'll get modified slightly, but no, I'm not raining on the parade. It would be freaking a monumental, historic thing for us to see this happen. And I'm trying to keep one eye on that just in case it goes down in real time. I actually have C-SPAN up on one of my screens, which is something I haven't had. And I don't know when I ever really watched live House sessions, but that's where we're headed these days.
Oh, I'm writing FIT21 may actually pass. I love this little ticker.
Yeah. I love the new set. I'm not going to lie. I like the vibe. I think it's, any feedback, share, please let us know. But we did kind of a little update, and I just think it's the space and sit side by side and not just be in boxes.
Yeah, I think this is very freeing for both of us, obviously in 2 different locations, but going green screen and having the background. We just did new cover art, and I just asked the guy, I'm like, hey, will you just break all the pieces out? And I surprised Disco this morning. He knew it was coming, obviously, but I was like, I think I can get this in pretty quick. And because we actually have new templates being made, but this is pretty badass. And this one, you know, with the full screen, like what more do you need here? The Bitcoin logo as one, you know, Saturn-like planet, and then our logo is the other. So with Decentral and super chill on this screen. So this may be, I think we're going to have a lot of options. So we'll have a week until she gives us ours. We're going to be at Consensus next week. So if you are listening and you are going to be there, let us know, because we'd love to meet some people. I don't even know, like that fight is not interesting. Like Nick Carter versus like that feels a little cringe to me, but I guess if I got in for free, I'd love to see Hoffman get a little pummeled, but I don't know. Is that just me? I used to love their show, and now it's like, hey, everything that they're peddling is something that their advisors and investors do. And speaking of which, Eigen Layer, this is news, Disco.
Okay, so, but aside from Hoffman having a punchable face, potentially?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the face is punchable, because, you know, we're old. Hoffman probably kick our ass, but the thing is I don't think they're being authentic. Like they're advisors to too many things, and along those lines. So, because I know they're Eigen Layer investors, they got some flack for that, but 2 people who are researchers on the Ethereum Foundation. The Ethereum Foundation are now advisors for Eigen Layer. And to me, remember Vitalik just came out with a letter yesterday saying like, I think he's worried about Ethereum. Like Solana, obviously because of pure degen meme coin season and NFTs. They said 55% of all like NFT new people coming in NFTs are on Solana. So Solana is kicking Ethereum's ass on the new person because the fees are low. It's totally VC backed, which I hate, but it's fun. Yeah, you and I degen last week and bought.
I think it's really fun.
Yeah, we bought the CCG on Deck Screener, and I don't think I have it. I think I closed that tab, but and it was like you and I realized, like, we talk about being degens, but we're like, oh, this is degen. We're not even buying the bonks.
There's levels to that stuff, man.
And the Jupiter and all that shit. Yeah, we're more of the art fans, but CCG is cool because the Solana token is gonna get burned for an actual ordinal, which I love. And then on the ordinals rune side, those will be burned too, and that's called Anime Bitcoin Rune, right? And if you type in Anime Bitcoin, it'll just be there. So Basil's leading that one. I thought it was a cool idea. Who knows what'll happen with it, but it was kind of neat. And I love because I haven't heard yet a burn mechanism for a rune and a bridging of a soul token to get an ordinal. And these ordinals went back because Elon was tweeting about these things in 2017. It's kind of this cool provenance play before, I mean, crap, what? 6 years before ordinals, and they were on this thing called X Chain, which has been bought 6 times over. I highly don't recommend going and transacting there right now, but it's interesting.
So you think that Vitalik's almost having like an existential, not crisis, but reckoning with, where this thing's going? And I don't, again, I love, some of the elements of degening and things like that, but like we always felt a little concerned about that walkway of the, restaking and, getting stuck at the top of the apartment building or movie theater, fill in the blank. But if he's worried about it, I don't know, that's cause for kind of some reconsideration.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say. Pure speculation as to why he wrote it. Remember, he wrote it before the odds of the ETH ETF coming out just went to,
craziness.
From literally 25 to 75, or from 10 to 75%. So maybe this is what they needed, the shot in the arm they needed to get that mainstream and institutional adoption. But they're getting their butts kicked. And Brennan, I know on the Cosmos chain, there's other chains that are also going for that super high frequency, cheap transaction. I don't know how many chains you can go to a meme coin season to before everyone knows that one plays out. Cause it's just the influencers who are good at this stuff, and the people behind this are just probably making mint. Hasn't worked fully yet on Bitcoin. Dog Go to the Moon, I think's at 300 million market cap, 350 million. I think R6 back to like a 200 million, maybe 180 million. So those are obviously the two front runners, but it pales in comparison to 1.5 billion for the Solana coin. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Dogs right now at over 400 for the market cap, and R6 at 218.
All right, let's see. Does Sat Screener agree? Sat Screener's always generally close. Is that where you went? So Dog. Oh, damn. So they're saying Dog 459 and R6. Okay, so even since our show started this morning, and I've got Satoshi Nakamoto, like, come on. It's rune number.
Let's see some action. Come on.
It's rune number 6. Like, that's one that I bet on. I think I have a little Wanko Manko, but I'm not betting the farm on that one. That's interesting though. So those have had a nice run. So maybe it's just a matter of time, but Bitcoin going up, maybe the seeming deregulation is causing all these to go up. But, we're happy for all coins that goes up because it's certainly good for the system. We obviously, have more favorites than others, but, don't we all, right?
Yeah, but it is interesting, when you look at kind of the stickiness of Solana, because a lot of people had theses, I guess is the correct term, prior to happening about a big, kind of onboarding session coming from that, and that being a primary driver of market cap opportunities for runes. So seeing that not necessarily come to fruition, kind of shows that, Solana people are pretty dug in on that, and there's going to have to be some more, kind of ease of use and things to really kind of get them comfortable with coming over and partying in the rune space.
Yeah, 100%. So, I think for Bitcoin, our day hasn't come yet. I think what we learned, or at least what I learned from doing CCG on Solana and just getting a little degen on that side, was it's a very different user base. A lot of these people are into quick flips on the Solana side, and rightfully so, because it's a hot potato, right? But transactions are settled almost immediately, whereas on Bitcoin, it's anywhere from 10 minutes, and of course you can have that one right after that's 3 minutes when the big backlog's happening, to like 30 or 40 minutes, right? So it's a different vibe. The fees are obviously lower in Solana. So if you're only betting $70 at a time, with Bitcoin, it doesn't work as much. But I think when Bitcoin, I don't want to say L2, but when the gossip technology, if that's the best technology, like Casey was mentioning, to be able to trade any size of rune, and it settles maybe off chain first, then rolls. I don't want to say off chain, but it somehow can settle faster. However, that has to be done. Maybe it is a secure kind of second L2 chain, which I think Runix was trying to do, but theirs was just to get there, it was too convoluted to get there. So whether it's good or not, I don't know. But that to me is what probably needs to happen for more people to degen on the Bitcoin side. Remember, these other coins have a many year head start on technology on top of the technology, and Wanzi and developers too. But Bitcoin with ordinals has a ton of developers, so that's not as much of a problem as it was. But there was a great chart, and I should pull it up. But Wanzi and a bunch of people have been throwing this out. The percentage of meme coin value on Solana. The Solana meme coins to Solana, say it's like 40% or something, and on ETH it's like 30% or whatever, and on Bitcoin it's like 0.0001%. So is it a perfect take because Bitcoin is also digital gold? It's not a perfect take because Bitcoin's market cap is over $1 trillion, right? But it does show you that as the ecosystem evolves and L2s evolve and maybe Lightning Network, that it could mean that runes and ordinals could just melt faces.
Hockey stick.
It could.
So when they're talking about the memes on ETH, they're including base, right?
Base, I think all of those.
So anything in the
and I don't know if they're counting the actual Uniswap token. I think it was more the meme coiny stuff, because if it was all the altcoins too on ETH, the ERC21s, then I would think that number would be even kind of skewed and higher, if you will. But Bitcoin's just getting started is the point.
Yep. Whew.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I think the political and politics, I know we've bobbed all over the place, but we've covered that pretty well. I think I love how you covered you definitely gave me more perspective on the FIT21, just like bringing more governing bodies into it. And nobody wants a lot of regulation. Like, we need less regulation, less government spending, but this feels like a step in the right direction. So let's see if it passes one of these houses, and then the pressure is really going to be on the Democrats, and they're going to have to play. This is not the hill. There's too many other issues with Democrats and Republicans. This is not a hill I don't think they can die, and they have to go at least neutral here. So that's a huge win.
I know. And wouldn't that be such an ironic yet awesome legacy that you don't see anything that's bipartisan right now? You know what I mean? Everything is so politicized from a party or partisanized, or so to speak, but to be able to have crypto finally get kind of its day of reckoning from that perspective, and have it also potentially represent a shift of generational alliances from the old party structure, like that's a pretty significant lift. And that would be a really good first step in this kind of, building blocks to really this new kind of environment that we've been advocating for so long.
I mean, it's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of RSIC, like in our little teeny pond here, like all these different collections came together. Usually collections are like, we're first, like the No Monks and the Pups. And I know most of the people were just having fun with it for engagement, but that gets so old. And with RSIC, that was a more neutral thing. It kind of brought everyone together. But you're right, we haven't had cross aisle politics since, like, I remember when we were kids, it was like Newt Gingrich, the gang of 7, the gang of 4, and only a couple guys, you know, and they probably would just get wasted together. Like they'd party together, be like, dude, I like the cut of your jib. Let's figure this shit out for America, you know, as they golfed and had their caddies and their high life, their scotch and their private jets. But we haven't seen any of that. And crypto, we forget, like, because a lot of the narrative in crypto in the last 2 years has been like, it's definitely more Republicans in. And as now that you and I have admitted, like, we grew up in liberal towns, in liberal states, and, you know, one of my parents is liberal. I think both of yours were. So it was only natural. And only now are we seeing, because of crypto and all the lies that were peddled from the Democratic Party, and, you know, everything that went on with COVID and the lockdowns, we're like, what else aren't we being told the truth on? You know, so now the deck is getting reshuffled, and it just wakes everybody up to realize, like, you know, I've got neighbors that are extremely far right, and they're some of my favorite people in the town. Like, we get along great. They taught me how to use my chainsaw and how to sharpen it properly and oil it properly. Like, and we have drinks all the time. And if you really break it down, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, if you break it down, we agree on like 98.8% of stuff. It's just that those 5 hot button issues that a lot of these weren't even hot button issues 40, 50, 60 years ago, like, tries to divide us. But crypto, for a long going in the woods, but this time, Disco, I'm not even going to do 6 tangents before bringing us back home. Crypto is bringing us all together. So you have made an extremely good point. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just, I think we're sitting at a whole new, you know, day, and I'm a little distracted because I want to see this vote go through, because I'd be super, super pumped to see, you know, that step happen. And yeah, I think that's, you know, people are, you know, I live in Colorado, and that's always been where you kind of have like more of a, you know, outdoors guy who's going to be more right wing, but then you'll have, you know, him talking to the hippie when they're taking their trash out, and it's like, hey man, it's a nice day, what are you doing? You know, so things can transcend it, and hopefully we can get into a different era where it's not just partisan stuff, because I genuinely don't think that the partisan divide is representative of the population.
Not
and I
even
think
remotely.
it gets exasperated and manipulated for keeping things at the status quo. So this really is a monumental shift. And I'm proud that, you know, crypto can be potentially this thing that, you know, gets people to kind of look past those pre-existing divides.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Colorado a big swing state, or is it more blue right now?
Yeah, because it got a bunch
Denver?
of people moved in from, you know, people came from Californias and from, you know, other states. So it kind of switched a little bit. It used to be more red, and then it was purple for a long time. So it's kind of purple, but it leans a little more blue because of the population centers.
It'll be interesting to see with crypto. I don't know how many Coloradoans are in crypto, probably more Texans than Coloradoans, but it will be interesting to see. I think this election is going to be, very, very interesting how this breaks out. But well, cool. Well, enough on that. But yeah, really good point. So who haven't we? We've got the macro covered. I'm just scrolling now. So like, where do you want to go now?
I mean, if there's anything, I think we kind of have the politics and the macro, you know, how many times are we going to circle around on that, you know, but I think
that there's so many facets to that diamond.
No, I know. And I still feel like I'm missing part of it, you know, like there could be a little onion underneath the pepperoni that I'm not addressing, you know, but when maybe we can see, like, is there anything that we want to kind of go to more on the degen side of it, or is that just kind of, you know, doing what it does and we're kind of just waiting?
No, we can flip impact there. Did I finish the part where the 2 ETH Eigen Layer? I think we went more about Vitalik, but the Eigen Layer, 2 researchers from that team. So Kobe, you know, who's obviously a huge person in the ETH space, was like, what the hell? Like, it's a conflict of interest. Like, I don't want to go on the record, but I guess you and I already have, like, a double staking validating thing to me. Maybe I'm not getting it. It just seems like double stake. It seems, now I'm going to use a disco. It's cockamamie. It's completely, it's cockamamie.
Let's put that on the counter.
But the fact that like in Kobe's point was like, this is a huge conflict of interest. Like, you're in the Ethereum Foundation and you're an Eigen Layer person, and they got life-changing money. I know at least one of them did, and one of them said he's going to donate it, so he probably already had life-changing money. But the other guy hasn't said he'd donate it, and I don't blame him. Like, good for you for getting kind of a big payout. But the more I hear about Eigen Layer, the more like I look at Bankless and then that guy who set up Eigen Layer. It feels like a layered Ponzi to me that is completely centralized, and I don't know. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on that one.
No. So the Bitcoin Policy Institute we got, the legal fund we got, Groomberg, the FDIC, that douchebag who basically had a toxic environment.
Bye-bye.
You know what though, and it shows you too. I'll bet you people who are even dabblers in crypto, or people who maybe have held Bitcoin and Coinbase for a little while, who work for these places, people have probably gotten emboldened to speak out and be like, this guy is a dog. He's a piece of shit and he should be fired. And it just shows you, like, so, toxic workplace doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad policymaker, but it means you make really bad decisions. You don't even make your own people feel safe. And you probably have your little cadre of favorites who get favors and stuff like that. So again, when you have a system with people where the underpinning thing isn't immutable code that we all know the answer to ahead of time, that we all contribute to, then shit like this happens, and it's going to keep happening over and over until our systems get better, more immutable, more transparent, and I'll throw in, of course, I don't know where it fits in, but more privacy for we citizens, right?
Agreed. One other story that I think maybe we'll just touch on is Farcaster got some more money. Looks like they just got another $150 million raised, and it's pretty VC backed, right? And you kind of see, are we going to see that be as decentralized as kind of the pitch was, or is it slowly falling in line with becoming kind of a version of a Web 2?
Yeah, it's the answer, as far as I understand, is a combination of the two of those. So basically the Farcaster is not entirely decentralized. Well, first there's an underpinning like infrastructure, right? And then on top of that, you can have different apps. So different apps can behave different ways. So you can block somebody, if I'm a complete jerk and I'm saying hateful things, and like, I think you can get either shadow banned or blocked, or you certainly get blocked by people just like on X. I don't know if you can get fully removed, but you cannot, that account you own. So maybe on the platform level, you're invisible, you're literally virtually have been yanked, but you still have that account. So that's the one place they really made that decentralized decision to make, because what isn't fully decentralized, I think a lot of the actual posts, like you're not putting each post and etching it on the Ethereum blockchain or an Ethereum L2. Now maybe that'll come one day where everything's kind of fully immutable forever there, but I think those are still, I don't want to say they're on some AWS server, but they're not as decentralized as your name. But I think that's a good start. Like, I'm on Farcaster, I'm Blustoshi on there as well. I've been on for a year plus now. So I want to say I was one of the early, but I was early, but I don't use it probably as much as I should. They've made some great decisions, but they kind of had to make tough decisions too, where a lot of the early adopters, especially like all the VCs, like the A16Zs, whatever VCs are behind it, they're getting boosted massively. And a lot of them have been posting there for a while, but Vitalik posts more on there. Some of the big, you and I both follow Polanya or whatever his name is, and he's got some interesting recasts or casts or whatever you call them sometimes. But and I think even Bankless is moving more over there. So more of the Ethereum centric group, because it's more of an Ethereum chain thing, are moving over there. But I've kind of found like I still like X better, but X is just a more modern tool. It's got spaces. It's got what we're doing here. We couldn't be live streaming on Farcaster right now. I'm sure like with smart people like Brennan working on all sorts of stuff like, what's it called? Tavern, which was such a cool thing that it's only a matter of time before a third party comes in and makes something cool like that. And they've got those cool cards, but I find like I have to mute, like whereas on Twitter, like if you're a new account, they're pushing certain people on you to get you kind of hooked on it. If you have but once you follow a lot of people, they leave you alone a little with the big Paris Hiltons, like people that you would never follow. But Farcaster, you have to kind of weed out a lot of people, but then a lot of people don't post a lot on Farcaster. So there's this balance of like, hello. So Farcaster's come a long way, and it's definitely got promise. And I think now we can say with the Lindy effect, it's not going anywhere. I think when it has more audio video tools for us, you and I will be on there more. Why wouldn't we be? But for now, I'm having fun on X and with, I think Spaces, obviously it was kind of like Clubhouse and took it to the nth level, but I'm pretty happy here right now.
Yeah. You should pull it up if you can. If you go to, oddly enough, C-SPAN, like right now, they're arguing, about regulating cryptocurrency, and it's just fascinating. Like people are, they're going for it. Like it's not a, one toe in the pool. Like they're advocating for this. So it'll be really cool to see this thing pop through, and it's happening live right now.
Okay. So C-SPAN now House, it's the House, right? Not the Senate.
Yeah. Go to the House and you'll see French Hill. And I encourage a full yes vote from both sides. Like it's just crazy.
Wait, how did you get it? Cause it's saying I have to log in. Oh wait, I can just go to the YouTubes. Hold on. Wait, Senate. Come on.
If you go to cspan.org and then just go down, you can click live into the House of Representatives.
Right, but you're actually logged in though.
I'm not logged in.
Okay, well it's saying I have to cspan.org. All right, well you talk about something on the list. Let me,
Yeah.
Let me go.
Right now there's a Illinois. I want to see where he ends up, if he's positive or negative on it. We've introduced amendments. They've all been rejected. Wow.
C-SPAN live House. Let's see if we can get it. Words taken down 3 hours ago, 25 minutes ago. Doesn't look like
a healthy democracy.
Let's see. No, they don't do live from YouTube. Damn them. All right.
All right. Well, anyone can check it out. It's just, as I say, we're kind of looking at, potentially, and I'm not trying to be over dramatic, but it could potentially be, history being made right now. And it's really freaking interesting and exciting.
So you're saying, right, they are arguing it right now, and we could get FIT21 passed
through the House today. Like they're going to vote this afternoon.
Super fast. All right.
So, and then what's next is, the stable coin legislation. And from, what I've picked up on that is that's, got a pretty strong path, and doesn't seem like that's going to have a ton of resistance. So those were the two that, if we go back to the Bitcoin Policy Summit, those were the two that they were saying, like, listen, we have a couple of pieces of legislation that are going to go through. And, as I say, we're just sitting down to seeing this actually become, law, and it's basically an anti-Gensler /SEC overreach, authoritative overreach, like it's kind of a response to that. And it's a reaction to what, people have been saying, like, how can we build within the rules if we don't know the rules? How can we operate as, operate within compliance when we don't know what the compliance is? And, Gensler's just been always like, hey, come on in and sit down with us. It's like, dude, that's not a policy. So this is really, really significant, important, and exciting. And I think it's just a first step for us on a really exciting path.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I went to YouTube TV and tried there, and apparently YouTube TV doesn't have C-SPAN. It's probably too boring. So yeah, they're not touching that one. But now I'm curious. It sounds like this could pass. This could pass literally any second. So we haven't even talked about. It's more of a yay, but this is Bitcoin Pizza Day, and was that 10 years ago? It was a long time. No, shoot, it was 2010, so that's 14 years ago. A pizza was purchased two pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. So a guy, I know one was in France, one was here. I think the
Florida.
In Florida, yeah, and the kid got 10,000 Bitcoin for ordering pizzas for the other guy, which is genius. And I know there was no regrets on any sides for doing it. He probably had another 10,000 to hold those 10,000 if it was in 2010. But it is Bitcoin Pizza Day, and there are pizza sats, and there's a pizza Bitcoin shroom. But it is a hallmark day because that was the first transaction, like real transaction. I'm sure people were giving each other Bitcoin in 2010 before that, but this is the first kind of real documented one. So that's why pizza and Bitcoin just go hand in hand now. So everybody, I'll write it in the ticker, but happy Pizza Day.
Well, the universe has been aligning with date themes, because we had the halvening nestling in right around 420. We have this FIT21 potentially getting approved on Pizza Day. So, it's weaving a nice little theme, and it's pretty exciting to see all this really come together. It's almost like, pinch me, like, is this all really going down this fast and this quickly? Because this time last week we weren't, thinking on the level that we were going to see this potential acceptance within such a short period of time.
Yep. Yeah. So I think we take our wins, we celebrate where we can, but we also galvanize and say like, hey, we can do this, we can do it together, and we can keep fighting, because there's even more important fights, believe it or not. And now we've got lobbyists on our side. We've got a lot of senators and Congress people on our side on both sides of the aisle, as Disco has very astutely pointed out. So this is a huge win. So Disco, did you maybe you did it last week, and we had so many glitches last week with the feed, but you got a Natcat, and you finally changed it to your PFP profile from an MFer. You still have your MFer, right? I assume.
Yeah, I'm still strong MFer, but I started going down, and we've talked about it, and kind of flirted a little bit with like what's going on with Natcats and all that. And I watched a video that kind of was technically a little bit over my head on some of the elements of DMT theory. Like I understood the kind of recognition of patterns and some of like that of the bigger picture stuff, as opposed to getting too deep in the weeds. But I just love the notion, and I just love this notion. And it's also with the chatFUKR, but I love this sort of direction of the technology dictating the art or the outcome. So I jumped into the Natcat party, and then I figured, like, why am I keeping it in the garden and not using it as a PFP? So I made that big transition yesterday. It was a seismic thing for the space. Everyone was like, I can't believe Disco's making this move. I know it was trending quickly, but
with everything going on in DC and everything going on with so many collections and runes, I couldn't get enough of people being floored that Disco switched your Natcat off my timeline. It was a lot. The roar was deafening.
Indeed. But yeah, it felt right. And it goes back to what we said about, collecting things that you think will stand the test of time, but also that are interesting to you. So it checked all those boxes, and I'm excited to be a part of that community and kind of learn and evolve as it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's Blob? Do I sell my blob? The blob art is pretty cool. And they do have that epic sat. R6 at 0.024. Bitcoin shrooms. A lot of people are kind of like anything below 2, really anything below 3 is like, I think it's crazy. But I guess if Bitcoin runs, Bitcoin runs. But these are sub 1Ks and 1.77. There's definitely, if anyone wants to spend more, there's some, in my opinion at least, there are some absolute steals out there.
What's that Fusion Billy Resley that's on Launchpad?
Billy Resty. So if you own a collection by him, so he's already gone to the holders. Looks like 37% were minted. I believe this one, it's this guy Gabe, who's a really good artist, and his paintings, and I believe they're all put on rare sats. But there was another twist to it. I know, because I read about the other day. I'm like, oh, that one actually sounds kind of cool. But, it's one of those like, do I need to mint, or with the market being soft right now, you can always wait till secondary. Like, and everything may run around the same time, but I don't know. I think we've kind of got time. I mean, Natcats are 0.023. They were way higher. Well, 0.029 when we bought them, but Ink's way down. There's a lot of collections that are way down, and I just think everyone's just coming into the news, and we're coming in. It's funny. Over these years, it's like DeFi summer, and there definitely was a DeFi summer. I know, because I came in at the end of that DeFi summer, and I got like the scraps, and I didn't lose, but I definitely didn't win. And then I saw the caving in, terrible analogy, and I got out kind of like with my shirt still on my back. But summer, like, people are way more laid back and chill in the summer, especially in these northern states like us. Like, I spend so much more time outside in the summer, more time traveling, more time with family. So it's interesting to see. Everyone's like, oh, this is ordinal summer, this is rune summer, and they might be right, but to me, summer is always a time. Like, we're going to do our show every week. We're probably going to do a show Wednesday, Thursday now, and we'll always have a guest on that Thursday, or we may do Wednesday, Friday. I think we're going to go this Friday with Dr. G, and he's one of my favorite people in the space, talking about AI, but also there's a huge swing state in Ohio. He's been following that race, and I guess the crypto candidate is looking pretty good and favorite there. So be interested to talk about the tide turning there.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like there's an opportunity for this summer to be like policy political summer, and it's like you have the thing in November that's gonna be significant, but we've seen it, and not to get outside of our lane politically, but you're starting to see groups getting taken care of prior to the election, right? So there's going to be a lot of activity of candidates and parties trying to, kind of shore up their base and their supporters. So I think that we're seeing it come to life. Like, this is really significant, and that might be what defines kind of the outcome of what we see over the next, handful of months.
Yeah, absolutely. So Disco, when I go to the non-scrolling ticker, we're now using the end of the show for a screenshot for YouTube, because YouTube, it's all about, we always joke about here's every YouTube thing, and we've always refused to do it. But I think, YouTube listeners, we love you too, but X is our first and foremost right now, and obviously on the audio podcast too. But we're going to always put up a YouTube thumbnail, and we're just going to use a screenshot from here. So Disco, is this a fair gentler?
Yes.
Gentler on the ropes. I wonder if people know what I'm talking about. Hold on. Gensler. All right. Gensler on the ropes. Crypto is on offense now. And we could always have like little fisticut, like,
ooh, Popeye
pugilism, right? So is this? Are you happy with this title?
I'm happy with the title. I'm happy about the coverage of what we've touched on, and I'm ready. I'm bullish for Friday, and I'm bullish for next week, and I'm bullish to check C-SPAN, which I normally wouldn't say.
It's kind of cool going above it. I think I can make it where I go below it too, like go behind it. Yeah, absolutely. And if that vote comes out, like Disco said, like we may go, I don't know if we'll go live again today because we just did like a 2.5 hour show, but we're definitely, as big news happens, we're definitely going to go live. So we don't do this enough during the show. Disco did it when I went on my huge kickball and medic segues. But if you like the show, retweet it on the timeline. We probably should play more games. Like I noticed a lot of people are now like, hey, post in this tweet your favorite NFT or whatever. But just like it, repost it. But more importantly, just tell your friends about it. We're on YouTube. Obviously, we're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on all the podcasts. So if you're in the car listening, and the beauty is because we don't talk as fast anymore. You can, when you're listening, 1.25 to 1.5 is an easy listen, and you get all this stuff in an hour and a half instead of 2 hours. But we love that you're here. Share with other people, tell other people, because we like to research stuff, go a little deeper, go a little more nuanced. And Disco and I grew up together, so it's a fun, loose conversation where we're not worried about if the other one's going to rug, because we we're on each other's Christmas card list, so it's a little more high stakes than most of you out there.
For sure. Maybe I'll do a disclaimer, and then we can go into the
picture
to the other side of it. Yeah. So just so everyone knows, this show is for entertainment purposes only. Please don't consider it as investment advice. Make sure that you're responsible with your allocations and don't end up getting over your skis, and just really focus on enjoying the ride and celebrating victories when we get them. And, I grew up a Cubs fan. I hope that I can, fly the W flag a little bit later today, if we see what might be happening in the House of Representatives. So it's a great day. Get some pizza and get ready for some odd faces to wrap this thing up.
Yep. Go local sports team, as they say in the Lego movie. All right. So you do you, but I'm going to do me. But wait, how do I screenshot? I guess we'll get it after.
We can get it from the
All right. So let's do it. So There it is. All right. Oh, we just got a couple loves too. So thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks. Tell your friends. And until next time, peace. Peace. There it is. Ending. Bye.